Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that, right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So recently I was thinking about the mid to late 90s and something that I would get typically as a stocking stuffer for Christmas. And it would usually be a couple of magazines, and they would be year-end magazines that would have top 10 lists in them. And so I remember getting People magazine, and it was all about movies and the top songs and the top performers and entertainers and different things like that. And then usually a sports magazine, kind of a year-end Sports Illustrated or, that kind of thing, and a lot of top 10 lists. And I love good top 10 lists. And then, after we would open our presents and everyone's just kind of sitting around, then I'm sitting there flipping through those magazines, and I really enjoyed it. And I know that magazines kind of aren't much of a thing anymore because most things are online, but top 10 lists are still a thing. And on this week's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, we are going to count down the top 10 leadership nuggets of 2024. And I'm really excited to do this. 52 episodes from 2024, and I went through and I picked out what I think are the top 10 nuggets for you as a private school leader as you try to serve and lead your school. And we're going to count them down today. But before we do that, I want to ask you a question. If you're listening to this episode in real time, it's pretty close to the end of the calendar year, and it's about the halfway point of your school year. And sometimes we reflect on the year that has come to an end, and we get excited about the new calendar year. We get excited about the second half of the school year. And sometimes we decide, okay, it's going to be better. This is the year that I finally do blank. This is going, the second half of the school year is going to be better than the first. And I know I didn't really take care of myself maybe that well, or I stressed out too much about this, or I wasn't really, that present for my family. I didn't have as much left in the tank at the end of each school day as I would like. All of those things that are very, very common for private school leaders. Well, I want to tell you that I'm here to help you make the second half of this school year better than the first. And one way is I'd love to talk to you about one-on-one coaching and working with you and helping you with whatever your biggest problem is. And that's at theprivateschoolleader.com/coaching that you can learn more. And really what it's about is clicking on a button to set up a free 20-minute Zoom call with me and just talk about what's going on with you and see how I can possibly help. But another thing that I can do to help is something that's asynchronous that you can do at your own pace on your phone, in your pajamas, on your couch, wherever you want, to help be a huge game changer for you as a private school leader. And I'm talking about Thrive Academy. And this is the online course that I created. And you can, like I said, it's asynchronous, and you can just go in there and go through the modules, and you've got your lessons, you've got your videos, you've got your workbook that you printed out, and step by step, strategy by strategy, everything that I've learned over the past 33 years as to how to help you be built to last and to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader, it's in Thrive Academy. And I want you to be part of that, and I want you to be part of the live office hours that go along with it with other leaders who are going through Thrive Academy at the same time. And so just go over to theprivateschoolleader.com/thrive, spend a few minutes there checking it out, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'd love to see you in office hours. And then just real quick, I want to give you a free gift. And that free gift is actually a PDF called How to Use Verbal Judo to Have Better Conversations with the Parents at Your School. And if you've never heard of verbal judo, it's actually a communication strategy that focuses on using words to de-escalate conflict. And George Thompson and Jerry Jenkins wrote a book called Verbal Judo. And George Thompson has trained over 200,000 law enforcement officers all over America in the art of gentle persuasion with verbal judo. And so what I did was took that book and turned it into a guide as to how to use the principles of verbal judo to have better conversations with the parents at your school. So you can get that free guide over at theprivateschoolleader.com/judo. Just another tool in your tool belt to help you to have better conversations with the parents at your school. And again, that's a free gift for you, just to say thank you for listening to the podcast this year, theprivateschoolleader.com/judo. All right. Are you ready for the countdown? Because I know I am. I love countdowns. So what I'm going to do is give you the number, give you a phrase, give you the episode number, and then just talk about that point for just a couple of minutes. But in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 115, I'm going to take good care of you as usual, and I will list the countdown. I will have a link to each episode so that it's right there for you, and it's easy to just click and listen if there's one that you missed or one that you want to revisit. But these are the top 10 leadership nuggets of 2024. All right. Number 10, lift your lid from episode 86. So this was a 3-episode series that I did during early summer of this year on the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And I took 7 of the laws and did 3 episodes, 7 each episode. But in the very first episode, the very first law is the law of the lid. And Maxwell talks about how as a leader, you are the lid on your company's growth. And so let's say that you're a 7 out of 10 as a leader. Well, your company, and by company, Maxwell uses the term company, but we're talking about your school, that your school is going to bump up against your leadership lid and can only ever achieve 70% of its potential if you are a 7 out of 10 leader. And so lifting your lid means for you to grow yourself and to invest in personal leadership development, to read books, to listen to this podcast, to do all the things that you can do to grow as a leader. And one of the things I failed to mention before, if we're talking about growing, I mentioned coaching, and I also mentioned Thrive Academy. Many of my Thrive Academy students and my coaching clients use Title II funds from their local public school to pay for that. And that's something I can help you with as well. But since we're talking about lifting your lid and growing as a leader, I just wanted to mention that Title II funds can be used to pay for Thrive Academy and to pay for your coaching with me. But number 10, episode 86 from the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership is lift your lid. Okay, number 9. Have a pity party after an August apology from episode 93. Have a pity party after an August apology. So around the end of July, I did an episode called How to Handle what to do when a teacher quits in August. And I think of an August apology as when a teacher texts you, calls you, appears in your office. I'm thinking of one in particular where it was during in-service, and it was the day before the first day of school, and my high school math teacher came in and said, sorry, I never thought I would do this, but I got offered this job at the public school, and I'm going to take it, and I won't be here tomorrow. And so we've all been there. We've all had that August apology. Some of you also have had an October apology or a February apology, but it just seems like those August apologies hurt really bad. And it's also because the public schools, they're often, I don't know about you, but where I live, it seems like they're just hiring people like mid-August, late August to fill positions. I'm not sure why they take all summer to do that, but you're all set. You've got your staff, and then boom, you don't have your staff because someone's leaving. And so what I said in number 9 here, and I said in that episode 93, is the first thing to do is to have a pity party. And I think it's important to just feel like, you know what, this sucks. This is stupid. This is dumb. I hate this. I hate this feeling. I hate that this happens so often. It feels like it happens every year. And to just feel bad about it. And to kind of get that out of your system. And maybe, 24 hours max for that pity party. But I think it's important to have it. But then once you've had that pity party and you get it out of your system is to just take massive action. And the massive action that you can take when a teacher resigns unexpectedly is detailed for you in episode 93. But number 9 is have a pity party after an August apology. All right. That brings us to number 8 on our list of the top 10 leadership nuggets of 2024. And nugget number 8 is to use the 4 S's to have better conversations with your parents. And that's episode 70. Use the 4 S's to communicate better with your parents. Now, the 4 S's in episode 70, I talked about the 4 S's of secure attachment that is come from a book by Daniel Siegel, and the book is called The Power of Showing Up. So you've probably heard of secure attachment. I'm not sure if you listened to episode 70, but the 4 S's are safe, seen, soothed, and secure. Again, the 4 S's are safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And I use the 4 S's of secure attachment when I'm having a meeting with a parent that's really emotional, and it's kind of been a game changer. And I just wanted to pass that knowledge on to you. And so again, you can go back and check that out if you haven't listened or if you need a refresher. And you can click on episode 70 in the show notes to hear more about the 4 S's and how those can help you have better parent meetings. All right. We're up to number 7 in our countdown. And so the number 7 leadership nugget of 2024 is the surprising truth about what actually motivates teachers. And this is episode 67. And episode 67 was actually one of the most downloaded episodes of this year, the surprising truth about what actually motivates your teachers. And I kind of did some high-level ideas from the Daniel Pink book Drive, one of probably the best-selling book about motivation that's out there. And again, his 3 big points about what motivates teachers are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So, of course, autonomy, there they are in your private school, and they want to have some autonomy with accountability. They don't want to be handcuffed to those state standard tests that take place often in the private schools that are the drivers for what's being taught in the classroom. Maybe they want some autonomy in the way that they deliver their curriculum. But then also something that motivates teachers is mastery, that desire to be good at something, to be competent, to be excellent, and to continue to improve in that. And then third is purpose. We want to be connected to something that matters. We want to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves. And of course, schools can check that box, but we have to keep reminding them of their purpose and their important role that they play in our schools. So leadership nugget number 7 is the surprising truth about what actually motivates teachers from episode 67. All right, that brings us to number 6 on our countdown of the top 10 leadership nuggets of 2024. And number 6 is to use high leverage moments to be a more visible leader. and that is episode 95. Use high leverage moments to be a more visible leader. And this was another episode, 95, that was probably, I want to say maybe the third most downloaded episode of the year. Lots and lots of leaders of our private schools, lots of listeners to this podcast want to be more visible. And when I sit down and talk to coaching clients and I ask them a question, I ask most of my clients this same question. What is it how do you finish this sentence? I really wish I had more time to blank. Or it's been a long time since I was able to blank consistently. And I would say about 80% say, I wish I was out in the school more, or more specifically, I wish I was in the classrooms more often. And so we want to be visible leaders. That helps us to be credible. There's so many positives that go along with that. All of that, is listed there for you in episode 95. But I talked about high leverage moments. And so a little goes a long way when you are visible during the most high traffic, high leverage moments of your school day. But you have to schedule them into your day, or else they're just going to be good intentions. So I'm going to list a few, and I'm not saying you need to be at all of these things, but if you're feeling like you're not visible and you're trapped in your office, scheduling a few of these a few times a week can make a huge difference. So recess, lunch, for me, those are non-negotiables. That recess lunch block, vibing with the kids, hanging out with the kids, interacting with the teachers, very visible, but it also fills me up. Car line, either arrival or dismissal. Class changes, especially in middle school and high school. Those class changes, that 2 or 3 minutes of those informal interactions, highly visible for the students and for your teachers. And then many of you lead a religious school, and there's a religious service once a week, mass or chapel, or there might even be religious services each day where different larger groups are coming together, and you can be visible by being there. So leadership nugget number 6 is to use high leverage moments to be a more visible leader. All right, we're into the top 5. And so leadership nugget number 5 on our countdown is solve the paradox of what parents want, grace and revenge, from episode 108. So a paradox is two things that don't really go together that are together. And in this episode 108, I said that grace and revenge is something that parents want. If it's their child that is making the mistake or doing the misbehavior, they want the school to show grace and understanding and work with their child and work with the family. But if something happens to their child, they want the school to lower the boom, throw the book at the kid. They want revenge. They want scorched earth. And they want both things. They want grace for their kid and revenge on the other kids. And so this paradox can become very difficult for private school leaders because we're in that intersection. And sometimes when you're in intersections, you're getting run over in all directions. And so in that episode, 108, probably a big takeaway for how to solve this is that your student handbook, your family handbook, is your best friend. You have to have a clearly stated discipline policy, and then you have to be incredibly consistent with following through. Because if you're following through when their child is doing something wrong, even if they're begging for grace, you can then also follow through exactly what the handbook says when someone is doing something to their child. That won't take their emotions out of it. That won't take their unreasonable requests out of play, but it will allow you to eventually earn respect, certainly of your teachers, and sometimes eventually from the parents, because of your consistency. And so rather than riding that wave of emotion of grace and revenge from the same parent, it's better to have your feet on solid ground with your handbook and your consistent enforcement of those consequences. So, leadership nugget number 5, solve the paradox of what parents want, grace and revenge, from episode 108. All right, that brings us to leadership nugget number 4, and it is your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities. Your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities, and this is episode 100. And so in the 100th episode of the podcast, I put out there one of my most, I think, favorite and most important quotes, because I would say about 90% of school leaders, based on my conversations with my coaching clients, with Thrive Academy students in office hours, and just with email interactions, that about 90% of school leaders are dipping in and out of their email inbox all day long. And sometimes that starts when you're still in bed and you're on your smartphone, and then it continues into the evening. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities. I want that to sink in, because you are adopting everyone else's definition of urgent if you are just dipping in and out of your email inbox all day long. And here's the other thing. You're falling into the false productivity trap. And what that means is that you're out and about in the school, and you come back and you sit down and, think about it. There's some decision fatigue. There's some physical fatigue. You've expended emotional energy. You've some cognitive load, okay? And your brain is screaming for a dopamine hit. And so you're going to probably do what about 90 to 95% of school leaders do in that situation, and that's you're going to open up email and start responding to a few emails. And that's about the worst thing that you can do from a productivity standpoint, because your brain doesn't know the difference between a high-value task and a low-value task. And so you are going to get that dopamine hit, and we actually get addicted to our email inbox. And so we want to, first of all, pause and remember that we need to decide what is important and to write that down. And, in Module 2 of Thrive Academy, I lay all this out about how this all works together with the index card and with the creating friction between you and your email inbox, and, the way that this can all work for you. But the first and most important thing is for you to recognize that you're either working on everyone else's priorities, and then you start working on yours when the school gets quiet and the teachers and the kids leave for the day. Or you can try to create some margin in your day by best practice for time management and productivity, and migrate some of those tasks into your workday so that you're not always working on your stuff after everybody leaves for the day and then you're taking it home with you. All right. We are in the top 3 of our leadership nuggets of 2024. And number 3 is be proactive about the rise of deepfake content and NCII, which stands for non-consensual intimate imagery. Episode 112, the day that episode dropped, was the most downloads in one day in the history of the podcast. So that means that we have leaders that are concerned about deepfake content and NCII, and we should be. It's in the public schools. It's making its way into some of the private schools. The headlines, they're terrifying. And rather than be scared and completely ill-equipped to prevent or respond to this if it happens at your school, we're going to do what we always do on the podcast, and we're going to get proactive. And so the best thing that I would say to do is to listen to episode 112, but also to go to theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 112 for the show notes, because those are probably the most robust show notes of any podcast episode from this year with regards to resources. And so the resources are there. And the other big thing that I would say is to educate yourself, then educate your teachers and staff, educate your students, and educate your parents. That's where it begins. You have to educate yourself first. And so we're not going to just shake in fear and do nothing and stick our head in the sand. We are going to get proactive. We're going to learn about deepfake content and non-consensual intimate imagery, and then we're going to take action. And so the place to start is the show notes for episode 112 and to listen to episode 112 for the first time or go back and listen to it again. Like I said, the most downloaded episode this year. So we're thinking about it. We're worried about it. Let's try and take some steps to build in some proactive policies and a plan for how to respond if, God forbid, it does happen at your school. All right, and then that's going to bring us to our top 2 leadership nuggets of 2024. And number 2 is, if you only read one book this summer, read this one, episode 85. And in late May, early June, I did an episode, and I was trying to encourage you that if you were going to read one book during the summer, that it would be Hopes and Fears by Rob Evans and Michael Thompson. This is a book published by NAIS. I will link it in the show notes for today's episode, where you will have links to all of these episodes in the top 10. But the link to this book will be directly to the NAIS website. That's the least expensive place where you can buy it. I think it's around $35. And I strongly believe that every private school leader in the world should have a copy of this book on their desk, and they should probably read it once a year. And it's an easy read. It's not War and Peace. Okay. It's not all the, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is about 150 pages, but it is full of wisdom. Rob Evans and Michael Thompson, not only are they former private school leaders themselves, but they are psychologists. They are parents of private school students and grandparents, and they attended independent schools themselves. And so they are the most, I feel like, incredibly informed. They've been doing consulting for decades. And so from understanding why parents act the way that they do, and also giving strategies for how to work with the 95% of parents that are workable or good or even great, and then giving advanced strategies for how to deal with the 5%ers. This book is the book on how to effectively build relationships with parents at your school. So, leadership nugget number 2, hopefully I've made my point. If you only read one book this summer or this year or this winter break or in 2025, read Hopes and Fears, and it'll be linked in the show notes. And then that brings us to number 1. Our number 1 leadership nugget of 2024 is stop inviting parents into your home after 7 p.m. Stop inviting parents into your home after 7 p.m., episode 75. So, you're on your couch. It's 7:15 p.m. You're in your sweats. You just finished dinner, and maybe you're watching sports. You're watching something on Netflix. But you've got your smartphone next to you. And you tap your smartphone, you tap your app for your school email, and there it is in your inbox. An email from that parent. And it's got some exclamation points and maybe even some capital letters in the subject line. And what happens is that you just invited that parent into your home to sit next to you on the couch at 7:15 p.m. And we need to stop inviting parents into our home. And I know that some of us are actually addicted to checking email in the evenings, and then it ruins our evening from time to time. But we're going to do a couple of things. Number one, we're going to turn off email notifications. And I cannot state that more strongly as to how important it is for you to turn off notifications for your school email. And then number two, what we're going to do is we're going to create more friction between you and your email inbox while you build up the self-discipline to not check email as often in the evening. Because here's the other thing. I can hear what you're saying. You're like, yeah, but what if someone needs me, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. If there's something that is of the level of importance and urgency that they need you after 7 p.m., they're going to text you or call you on your cell phone. They are not going to email you. Whoever they is, whether it's a board member, or if you're a division head, it's your head of school, or if you're head of school, it's your director of maintenance or your athletic director because of something that happened on the way home from the basketball game on the bus, whatever it is. It's kind of a self-sorting thing for urgency and importance is whether or not they call or text you, or if it's going into an email that you can check the next morning. And the last thing is that whole creating friction. See, most of us, we don't even really realize that we're doing it, that we're checking email so often. It's become a reflex. And your thumb knows, it goes and it goes to that spot on your home screen without even you thinking about it. And what I have my coaching clients do is to move their icon 2 swipes. Move it off that home screen, move it 2 swipes. And almost without exception, when one of my coaching clients moves their email icon 2 swipes, that they report that it's within a week, 2 weeks max, that they're checking email 80% less often outside of school. We have to create friction between ourselves and our email inbox. You know, my wife, she recently bought Oreos. And I love Oreos. And I'm like, why did you buy Oreos? And she's like, because you like Oreos. I'm like, well, that's the problem. I don't want to eat a bunch of Oreos. Because what I would do is I'd just walk through the kitchen and grab 3 Oreos and just keep going. But we recently cleaned out our Tupperware container, our Tupperware cupboard. And so what I did was I put it in the Tupperware cupboard. And then I would have that pause and think. And then what I was able to do is only eat 3 Oreos a day until the big party-sized Oreo package that my wife bought was gone, instead of eating 3 every time I walk through the room. That's what you're doing when you move your icon. I think you should try it and just see what happens. It's a big deal. And so the number one leadership nugget of 2024 is to stop inviting parents into your home after 7 p.m. from episode 75. I just scratched the surface. Go back and check out episode 75 for all the details. So let's run them down again. I love countdowns. You know that. Number 10, lift your lid from episode 86. Number 9, have a pity party after an August apology in episode 93. Number 8, use the 4 S's to communicate to have better communication with your parents from episode 70. Number 7, the surprising truth about what actually motivates your teachers from episode 67. Number 6, use high leverage moments to be a more visible leader from episode 95. In our countdown, number 5 is solve the paradox of what parents want, grace and revenge from episode 108. Number 4, your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities, episode 100. And number 3, be proactive about the rise of deepfake content and non-consensual intimate imagery, from episode 112. Number 2, if you only read one book, read this one, from episode 85. Of course, I'm referring to Hopes and Fears. And then number 1 on our Leadership Nuggets countdown of 2024 is to stop inviting parents into your home after 7 p.m. from episode 75. And I like to have a call to action with every episode. Since it was the number 1 leadership nugget, I am challenging you and asking you to move the icon for your school email 2 swipes. And then in 2 weeks, I want you to send me an email at mark.o.minkus@gmail.com and tell me how it's going. So you're going to move your email icon 2 swipes on your smartphone. And then 2 weeks from now, you're going to email me at mark.o.minkus@gmail.com and tell me how it's going. And I want to give you another free gift as we wrap up this calendar year. It's called 7 Strategies to Effectively Deal with Difficult Teachers. Maybe as you're thinking back on the school year and thinking ahead after winter break, you're like, oof, I gotta deal with that teacher. Okay, well, here's a plan. What you need is a plan. And if you go to theprivateschoolleader.com/difficult, you can grab this free guide that will give you a step-by-step plan that you can use to help one of your difficult teachers improve their performance and improve their attitude. So I want to give you that for free. Free gift, 7 Strategies to Effectively Deal with Difficult Teachers. Go over to theprivateschoolleader.com/difficult. And then another reminder that I want to help you have a better second half to your school year. I want to help you be built to last. I want to help you to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And so I want you to decide. Go to check out Thrive Academy or go to check out coaching, because that's how I can help you. So you're checking out theprivateschoolleader.com/thrive, or you're checking out theprivateschoolleader.com/coaching. And I would love to help you have a better second half to your school year that will set you up to have a better year next year and the year after that. And I told you a few times, but because there was so much in this episode, I'll mention it one more time. Show notes, privateschoolleader.com/episode 115. And then also, I would just really appreciate it if you would share this list, this episode specifically, I think could be a really, really good episode to share with another leader at your school, another leader that you met at a conference, that aspiring leader that you have your eye on at school, that you can see them as a rising star. Share this episode with them because it's going to give them access to the top 10 leadership nuggets from this year. And then they can access all of this information. We want to spread this encouragement and this knowledge so that we can better serve our schools and better serve those kids and those teachers. And I just appreciate you so much. I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I am so privileged to be able to share each week with you when we have these podcast episodes, and I'm so grateful for you taking some time out of your busy week to join me here on the podcast. And thank you for listening, and I will see you next time right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.